Right, everyone. Welcome. This is Aluminum Tarot. Thanks so much for joining us again. We're going to be reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. For this particular period, we're going to do it just from a month out, I guess, or if you want to just look at it as a timeless reading or a message that you need to understand today, feel free to do that as well. I would like to say, like, I do it from now until the next month or, for the next 30 days or so on. But I guess it's just really depends on where you're at because time is so fluid nowadays. I'm realizing that sometimes they happen just when they want to and when they need to. So it's really up to your discretion. So um, we are going to now look into some of the messages that we've got for today. We have consulted the Wild Unknown Tarot deck and additionally their counterpart, the archetypes. So this is a deck I'm experimenting with. So bear with me as I start to look at some of the Oracle deck messages, which we have in this nice handy little instruction manual, which kind of resembles to me pretty much like an owner's manual for a motorcycle or something. It's massive. So yeah. Now we're going to go ahead and start off. If you like what you see here, please be sure to give a like, share, subscribe, ding the notification bell so you don't miss any updates from future postings, and feel free to support the channel in any way that you see fit. Leave comments below, you can click the like button, you can share it, you can do whatever, just whatever. Without further ado, let's get into your message. Okay, Cancer. So for this particular period in May, I remember that they were talking about they have two full moons. The first is in Taurus and the second is going to be in Sagittarius. So those two moons that take place this month are going to be quite intense. And so I guess we'll just see how it goes. I know that I have a Taurus sun and a Sagittarius ascendant. So that's going to make things quite interesting, hopefully, for me as well. We're looking into this. The first Oracle deck message that you received is the desert. And so what we talk about in this, we see that the desert leaves us disorientated, desperate for direction, grasping for meaning, longing for solid ground. For endless miles, we are confronted with a lack of clarity and existential dread. We're thirsty, hungry, pleading with life to get back to normal, to become animated by simple pleasantries of day-to-day life. The desert offers no such comfort and almost pass through it. If you embrace the discomfort of the desert, knowing you will someday reach water again, you can tap into the potent energy of the landscape. Its lights are blindingly bright, and its darkness is terrifyingly deep, which makes for unbridled creativity and clairvoyant visions. Truths reside in the desert that otherwise remain hidden. The crows, the shadows, and the coyotes that surround you. Let the winds and sand work their deep magic, weary traveler. So, oftentimes when you see people going in the desert, you even have this story of Christ where he was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And of course, he's tempted by the devil in that particular part of his existence. And it's very telling. What the desert normally does is it strips us of all creature comforts, all sense of protection, and it leaves us extremely vulnerable to the elements. It's what we call exposure in many cases, whether that's exposure to the heat, the cold, the elements, rain. When we are left without the basic creature comforts that are important to us, whether that is in the physical realm, where we're without money for a long period of time, companionship, things of that nature, or if you are in a spiritual desert where you're feeling like it's very difficult for you to find yourself. You're looking for the answers that you're seeking to a lot of important questions that you will then have to go on kind of your vision quest. Oftentimes vision quests do take place in a desert of sorts because it forces the person to go out there, connect with nothing more than the divine within and the divine without, and then receive the answers or, the visions that they need to receive. Sometimes they'll do it on peyote or ayahuasca, things like that. And that in turn leads to that kind of period of illumination. So with that, we also get another message. and go ahead and pull it up, we get the message of the medallions. So quickly look, see what that is. Now, with the medallions, we have almost arrived. There we go. So with the medallions, we look at this here, and you can clearly see, you know, we talk about that light in the middle of darkness. So this kind of gives me Starcard energy almost. But with this, it tells us about the passing of sacred objects is an ancient ritual within families, between lovers, and in tribes across the globe. We gift jewels, treasures, keepsakes, and mementos for all kinds. Some of the great material value, others that hold emotional resonance, and still others with both. Yet when these gifts are bestowed upon us, it is important to recognize that they may bind us to an unspoken agreement or promise. When the medallion card appears, be aware that how the object you hold dear may be embedded with unconscious energy or expectations. Materials hold consciousness, and it's time to reconcile the vibration of the objects around you. What do you covet and collect? Why? Is there an object that you have held onto for years that you are ready to release? Perhaps it's time to reach for the medallion that aligns you with the deepest values. So when we have medallions, oftentimes I wear this one here. This is what's known as the Vague Visa or the Wayfarer. And this comes from a lot of Viking culture. I know I'm brown. Yeah, yeah, there are no brown Vikings. However, from my period in travel in Iceland, I've also traveled a bit in Norway as well. What I found, especially on my trip to Iceland, was a time in which I was chasing after the Northern Lights, because during the trip we had storms rolling, and these were ice storms which engulfed entire landscapes, which I unfortunately got caught in. And it was not very fun because I got pelted with hail the size of Dippin' Dots like that, which hurt going at about 20-30 miles an hour. But in the whole vision quest that I had, which was a kind of vision quest of sorts, every day I woke up for the 5 days I was in Reykjavik, I chased after the Northern Lights, and every single day, save for the last day, I was unsuccessful. There was either no signs of the Northern Lights showing up in the sky, it was too cloudy, there was too much rain, the place I was going to go to I couldn't get to for the observatory because I had to cancel the trip because of the storms that were coming through. So I felt dejected. And at the very end of it, the vision that I got was, Divine One, thank you for this chance to at least spend time in Iceland and to have a wonderful time and to at least have this brilliant adventure that I had been, that I had set upon. And right at the end of this, speaking those words into existence, the universe nudged me and said, go outside, check one more time. And I just stood there. At first I was kind of like, oh, this isn't going to happen. This isn't working. I'm not going to be able to see the Northern Lights. And then I saw like little squiggly lines in the sky like that. So I was like, oh shit, it's actually happening. So I take my phone like this and I look up at the sky, and then I start seeing the Aurora Borealis. So I had to actually capture it using the phone because it shows up better on film than it does in like your personal vision due to the wavelength of the lights. However, it was in that time of desolation, being at the very edge of Reykjavik, in a bay or harbor like 5 kilometers away from the city center, that I had been wandering for that entire period, and it just took me like everything I had to walk for days and search for days and try to find out information for days, only to come back to the hostel I was staying at and find the answer right there. And that's what the desert and the medallion, I think, talks about for this particular reading, Cancer. So share that experience with you, Cancer. To try to make sense of everything. And with the medallion, it's all about for that experience, I kept this medallion. Not this one specifically, but this is another one that I can wear. I didn't want to lose the original Veg Visa, so that's kept away safely. But I keep on to that to remind myself that no matter what storm you're going through in life, you will always find your way out of it and navigate to your destination. And right after that experience, that's when I started going through all the crazy shit with my work. Losing a job, having to deal with the changing market, having to upskill, all the things that I've spoken about on this channel before. So, medallion reminds us of the time in which we were going through the desert, I suppose, in this particular case. That said, story time's over. I'm going to go ahead and read I'm going to go ahead and read into your cards and actually find out what's taking place with you. So, you've got a lot of twos here. A lot of twos. You got 3 different suits with the number 2 in it. The first one is the 2 of Pentacles. And with this butterfly, they're learning how to adapt and they're learning how to change, transform with the material situation that they're undergoing right now. Butterflies also go through a period of transformation, and in doing so, they have to go between 2 realms and adapt their physical body. As it's been told in the past. Now, I think that Rich Lopp talks about this. We talk about this with Baba Jolie Tarot and many others, where they talk about how the butterfly starts out as a caterpillar, encases itself in its chrysalis, and then liquefies completely in order to adapt to the transformation that it's going through, which is why butterflies are always seen as a kind of metaphor for death and transformation. And so in this, I think that you're undergoing this particular period, especially possibly in your material realm and your finances and things of that nature, or life circumstances. So with that said, what's evidencing that is the 3 of Wands, which is telling us that you've been undergoing a period of long waiting for the things that you want to come into your life. And in order to do that, you had to adapt to all of life's challenges and changes, so that way you could come out on top on the other side. So that was in the recent past. And you're looking towards this transformation with a lot of patience and knowing that in the end that your ships will come in. And that story that I told you about my situation, the 3 of Wands is when we finally know that they're coming in, because then the 4 of Wands follows after it, and that's the period of celebration when you actually have that transition into something that is a milestone for your life. Moving into the current energy right now, you have the 2 of Cups in the reverse, and then you have also evidencing this is the 6 of Cups in the reverse. Whatever this period is that you're going through at the current moment, it's got you feeling in the feels quite a bit. 2 of Cups in the reverse is a disconnect from someone. 6 of Cups in the reverse is a feeling of bitterness about the past, bitterness over a situation that you've endured. It's negative feelings about the past, and it's not a necessarily happy vibe at all. So whatever transformation that you had in the past, you may have known that you needed to leave something behind, you needed to go ahead and start getting your affairs in order, and so on and so on. Then once the transformation kicked off, that's when you're just like, fuck this shit. You start saying everything becomes all sorts of bitches, and, it's not really a nice feeling. But of course, you have to feel the feels and go through that. Of course, you're in your chrysalis. That is what takes place. And it's not always fun to have to go through like forced change, but when you do, it's for your better good. It leads always to more pleasantries, in the future. Speaking of the future, you have the 7 of Cups in the reverse here, which talks about bringing about a period of clarity. So you're no longer in the 7 of Cups upright, where you have all these choices, decisions, and things you want to make, and you're just like, oh, the Gibbs, like that. It's about finally making up your mind and saying, I want this. finally lifting the fog and saying, I can see again. Because Seven of Cups can also talk about being in a bit of a foggy period or a very confusing time. That said, what's evidencing that is the Six of Swords. And with Six of Swords, remember, I was telling that story about the Aurora Borealis. And maybe this isn't the exact same, but it's like the storm comes, and then you get to see the lights in the sky after that. Because after rain comes the rainbow. After my ice storm, which pelted me nearly to death, I saw the Aurora Borealis. And that is the transition into something that's more positive on the other side. And with you, you know that this is coming. You can feel the change, but at the current time and moment that you're enduring all of this change, you're feeling extremely bogged down, not feeling very emotionally happy about everything. And it feels like you're just feeling detached. And detachment comes oftentimes when we're in a period of intense pain or suffering. Sometimes the way the mind protects itself is it detaches from its reality. You've heard probably from people who have undergone a painful experience, whether that be any kind of assault, robbery, or like massive changes that take place in life that upset the stability of the individual. That typically will lead to that detached period. The outcome of all of this, we have the Two of Swords, and then clarified by the Death in the reverse. When I look at this, I get that scene from The Crow, where he's just like, there ain't no coming back. There ain't no coming back, unless right before, like, the crow kills him, the guy. But it's almost like you're putting your defenses up against anything from the past that would upset this transformation that's coming into your life. When the Death is in the reverse, oftentimes that can say a resistance to change. And oftentimes it can be a prolongation of that change that needs to take place in your life. Two of Swords can also be putting up your defenses to guard or block against certain things that need to come in. So you're being advised not to fight this change, not to put up your guard when it's time for things to start moving. And I think that you'll be able to endure, you'll be able to come out with the other side with a lot more clarity, precision, and additionally, peace of mind. Another card that comes out, look at that. You got the last two in this whole deck. You have the Two of Pentacles, you have the Two of Cups, you have the Two of Swords, and I just pulled a new card, and it's showing the Two of Wands. You can't make this stuff up. I've never seen anything like that in a reading in my life. It's massive. So, if you have choices or decisions, if you're in a current relationship, or if you've got some other kinds of things that you're trying to work out that involve another person or a decision, or maybe in a planning stage, with all of these twos in your reading, it tells me about a polarity, a type of decision making where you have two options and you trying to really work through that so that way you can make sure that you come out on top with the right decision. So that's what I'm getting from this reading. So that's going to be it there. I hope you enjoyed story time, and we'll leave it at that. But yeah, again, this is Aluminum Tarot. Thanks so much for joining. And if you like what you see, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ding the notification bell so that you always catch the latest updates. And I'm going to head off. Thanks so much. Until next time, love and light.